Explorers, welcome back to the Starfield Lorecast. This is your host, Tom, or Robots. I'm here with my good buddy, Dave. We are your co-pilots for this adventure, and today we are taking you on a journey into some pirate waters. I guess you could call it that. Dave, how do you feel about pirates?
I feel really good about pirates. I love pirates. I feel like that, we got so many Pirates of the Caribbean movies that it oversaturated the market. Nah, we didn't oversaturate that market. We're still going strong. Let me get Sid Meier's pirates out here. AC Black Flag. Let's get some pirate juices flowing. I want to be a pirate.
Classics. Absolutely. So wait, are you going to do a pirate playthrough of Starfield?
That's the first thing I'm doing. I am pirate. I am bad, but I'm not like, I'm going to kill everybody. I'm a little killer. Look at me. No, I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to steal all that stuff from you. Like, this is just, I'm a pirate, man. I want to steal everything from everyone.
What's your pirate name?
My pirate name, it's got to be Davy Spaceman.
Davy Space. So this is Captain Davy Spaceman we have on the show today, and we've got you for some for an interview. I'd like to interview you, Captain Davy Spaceman.
Captain Davy Spaceman.
Davy Spaceman. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for not killing us and stealing all of our stuff during this interview.
You've passed the parlay. So I've honored those accords. Those are in the Space Pirates logbook. We're feeling pretty good about that.
All right. Well, thank you for being here with us. Would you mind answering some questions we have about the Crimson Fleet?
Yes, I indeed.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Awesome.
Pirates are very formal.
So I hear the Crimson Fleet is kind of this loose confederation of captains. How does that work?
Yeah. So the Crimson Fleet themselves is a confederation of captains based under a single banner. They've kind of chosen the Jolly Roger, like the classic skull motif, and have used that as their flag of sorts.
Yeah, but it's I've seen it. It's updated. It doesn't look just like you would see in pirate ships in the 1700s or something.
No, it looks more like what you would see in like a hidden level in Pong. Like it's kind of a vector in design, I would say. Okay. But the Crimson Fleet to me is very interesting in its motivations. So it's not just like, oh, we're a bunch of pirates, we're out to steal for ourselves. It's like they are a faction. They have goals. They have ideas, it seems. And all of it stems from the colony wars. And as we go through, and we've gone through each of these episodes, stepping out of my role as Captain Davy Spaceman.
Welcome back, Dave Chapins.
Here I am. As we've gone through each of these episodes of kind of exploring locations, it's all kind of been about the fallout of the colony wars.
Right.
We don't have a lot of information on what the colony wars were per se. Right. We just know that there was a war. It happened in the stars. It was a star war. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So this is going to be one of those things that we will uncover once the game actually comes out, and we can dive a little bit more into what exactly the Colony Wars was. I have a feeling it's going to be very similar to the Great War in Fallout, and there's going to be all these different opinions about why it happened and who caused it and what actually resulted from it. But that's the point that we're at in the game in the current timeline, is that we have these 5 main factions, and the Crimson Fleet is one of them. Now, welcome back to the show, Captain Davy. I hear if you join the fleets, you can't just leave the fleet on your own accord, right? That doesn't work that way.
Right. Pretty much once you join as being a captain and all, you will have to be killed. That is...
If you decide to leave, you don't just join and get killed. If you decide to leave, you get killed.
Pardon me. Even the thought of you talking about that, I was like, well, now we have to kill you.
I see. So everyone is just trained to just jump on that right away.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's central training in the Crimson Fleet. You will have to be killed effectively if you leave the Crimson Fleet. There is no that application is pretty much blank. When you come to me and you give me your letter of resignation, I'm going to give you a space laser of resignation.
Through the head. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it. So I'm not signing up yet, but I might still decide to sign up. So I'll let you know. I'll figure out if that's something I want to do. Now, speaking about being part of the Crimson Fleet, it seems like there's a number of different systems that the Crimson Fleet operates in. Are you able to share that information with us, or is that secret?
I'm incredibly, in this once in a lifetime opportunity, I am incredibly privileged to share that information. Mainly, we are located out of the Crix system. We've taken over an old United Colonies base, but we are in multiple systems, including the Sagan, Cheyenne, Lunara, Nerian. We're heading around Aquila City some, just go check it out if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. So you have a little bit of a presence everywhere, but these are different captains probably in these different locations that kind of have their own things going on. Because again, it's a loose confederacy of these captains working together, which reminds me of like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies and how like all the captains are themselves, but they'll get back together to make decisions sometimes but then they're all doing their own things.
We unspokenly, we just say, we have different yo-ho-hos and different area codes.
That was a multi-level joke.
Was.
I like that. Okay. So why become a pirate? What do we know, or what do you know about why you signed up, or why other pirates tend to sign up with the Crimson Fleet as opposed to just, working in the system? Why not be a part of, the Freestar Collective, they kind of let you do your own things. Like, why not be part of them?
Yeah. Effectively, we exist in our own world. There are no laws to the Crimson Fleet. I keep on want to call them the Crimson Raiders, but that's Borderlands, and I'm like really trying to
that's different.
Demark that. Within the Crimson Fleet, there are no laws. The only thing that you have is the the hierarchy of captains, and then our leader, which I cannot tell you that name because it's classified, and also I don't know. But it's also very classified.
Don't know for sure.
Is
Got it.
At this moment.
Got it. Okay. All right. Interesting. So, as pirates, are you looking for mostly like plunder? Is this like a financial endeavor primarily? Are you actually that's taking over places? Are you conquesting?
That's what a lot of outsiders think is that we're strictly motivated by our conquest. But here's the thing: it's not a conquest. We're just taking what is actually ours because we own the galaxy.
Okay. All right.
It is well known in the Crimson Fleet that we own everything. Everything is rightfully ours. Mm-hmm. The United Colonies and the Freestar Collective are a bunch of posers who suck, and they don't have any.
Those harsh
they
words.
Just made up the rules. There's just a bunch of made up rules for them. An immense amount of made up rules that, like, who even cares what you're doing? Oh, you say that you have control of this and you can't trade this and you can't. No. We're not going to do that.
Okay. Got it. So you come up against, let's say, the SysDef or the Vanguard groups pretty commonly. Like, from your perspective, I would assume that they're getting in your business.
Yeah, these United Colonies assholes are pretty much one of the most terrible factions that we deal with. That's why we occupy one of their old bases, which we have definitely not vandalized entirely with all of their different propaganda that they put in there.
I see. So the SysDef, the System Defense Force, that's part of the colonies, is not really, in your eyes, is not really more as much about defense as holding on to the things that they already stole from you, because everything should be everybody's.
Right. Effectively, they are a bunch of Pinkertons. That they have somehow paid to protect the planets that they, I guess, own. They probably subjugate all of the populations, and that's why we're there to pretty much take what's ours, because they cannot subjugate us.
So would you consider yourself like a freedom force?
No.
Or just more like libertarians?
Libertarians is a strong word for the Crimson Fleet. No, if I could get into theory of Crimson Fleet, I think that there is some motivations there for not necessarily a libertarian or we're going to free you, but more of like, we exist outside of the system You all seem to ignore us and not help us any, so we're going to take what we want. You look at, stepping outside of Space Captain Dave here for a second. If you look at the Raiders from Fallout 76, their origin stories of like, hey, there was in this like, Great War, there were these raiders that lived up in the hill. They got stranded because it was a ski resort and there was this like massive nuclear blast. And so all the resources were given into the people that actually lived in the area, as opposed to the rich people that were trapped at the ski resort. So what did the rich people at the trapped ski resort do? They went down and they started stealing from other folks. Like it's out of a necessity. And I feel like that's kind of the same for the Crimson Fleet. It's like, hey, why do you get to decide who gets what? Why do you get to decide what's yours and what's not?
Right. Yeah. So like we want our piece of the pie too, and we're going to take it by force if we have to.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome back, Dave, to the show. Thank you for joining us, Captain Davey. Dave, I've noticed some of the graphics that have come out about the Crimson Fleet. They appear to have like kind of this hodgepodged together look for their ships and like their gear.
Yeah, it's a lot more ramshackled in its design. If you think about, I know that you're a big fan of the Expanse. These are the most like Expanse-like outfits that pretty much exists in the game. If you think about, there's a faction of people called the Belters. I don't know why I'm explaining this to you, but just background for folks. Faction of people called the Belters that live out in the asteroids, and they are deprived. They don't have a lot of resources because they're just kind of like hanging out in an asteroid belt, and there's not much there to get other than doing some mining here and there. So a lot of their outfits and stuff are just like whatever they can piece together. The Crimson Fleet looks a lot like that. And then a lot of their higher ups wear skulls on their mask because they just love Call of Duty Ghosts.
That's the reason. It has nothing to do with, the skull imagery of the Jolly Roger, pirates scaring their enemies in kind of a Captain Blackbeard sort of way. Like, and there's rumors of like real world rumors that Captain Blackbeard would put like fire in his beard, and when he would board ships, he would like come on board with like multiple pistols all strapped to his body, one in each hand, and a beard on fire. So people thought he was absolutely insane or possessed by ghosts or something, right? And it was a scare tactic in order to get people to cooperate without actually having to kill anyone, although he was willing to do that as well. Speaking of ghosts, there seems to be a theme with the names of their ships.
Yeah, there is a theme, and this is something that I haven't talked about before because I just found out this, like, kind of pieced together this information of ship names. It seems like that the Crimson Fleet are theming their ships and the names of their ships after ghosts or like supernatural things. So like their low level ship is called a ghost, and then their like mid level ship is called a haunter. I think for the UC, it's like different animals, like a jackal, I think is one of them. And then for Eclipse, which we haven't really talked about yet, they use blade names, so like stiletto and claymore and such for their
dinner,
so it seems
dinner
like
knife.
Dinner knife.
That's the wimpiest of the ships.
Right. Yeah. That's your low level.
Butter knife. I guess butter knife would be the wimpiest of the ships.
There goes a flying spork in the air.
Dull spork that's what they give you when you first sign up.
The interesting thing, I think, is this like spooky, like, undead version of the space pirates. Like there's like some allusions there to the ghost pirate, phenomenon that's in like almost every single fictional pirate story ever. Yeah. There's always some ghost or something.
This connection to death and the skeletons and those kinds of things too. So I think that's really cool. It actually makes me even more interested to get into a playthrough where I join up and see what that's all about.
It seems like that there's even footage of you like fighting the ghost, but also there's footage of you flying one of the ghosts. So like any ship in Starfield, you can get in there and steal. Mm-hmm. You can steal somebody's ghost. Mm-hmm. Okay. I wish I could do that in real life. If somebody had a ghost and then I just stole it.
Ghost thief. Ghost thief. That's a great name for a band.
Yeah, that's a great name for a band.
Oh, that's a little bit hard to say. Ghost stealer, ghost robber, the ghost robbers. Okay, well, that was a fun tangent. So what else do we need to know about like interacting as the player with characters from the Crimson Fleet?
So one of the interesting things that they brought up that you can actually join the Crimson Fleet, it seems, but in interviews they talked about joining them for real or just joining them as like an undercover operative for the UC, which I think is interesting because oftentimes we don't get the experience of those bad karma factions, I would say, unless you're in that playthrough.
So you're saying you can actually infiltrate them without ever having to full up sign up with them, seemingly.
Yeah, you essentially lie to them, much like in
like I'm a powder ganger in New Vegas. Like, hey, I'm running the powder ganger stuff. Yeah, I'm supposed to be here, and you kind of get in that way.
Right. Or like in Knights of the Old Republic, when you're like, oh, yeah, I love being a Jedi, but it has lie in little parentheses beside it.
Right.
That kind of option, which I think is great because sometimes you just like miss out on some really cool quests and some like powder gangers or like
the Brotherhood in Fallout 4. Unless you sign up and you actually join the Brotherhood, you don't actually get any of that storyline.
Right. And navigating navigating your own choices of like what stuff is, like you kind of have to read guides in order to figure that out of like, okay, I got to do this quest first, and then I got to go to this faction, do this quest. And then if I align these pieces correctly, then I can get the outcome that I want and get Elder Maxon's code all in the same,
Yeah.
all in the same go. So it seems like that you're able to finagle your way in under false or true pretenses. Right.
So there was some other stuff in the trailer that was revealed too.
Oh yeah.
What was that about?
So obviously like Crimson Fleet are going to be an enemy, a common enemy type, much like Raiders, would be, or bandits. Like you're going to have those like the thief type and the Crimson Fleet. I keep on saying Crimson Raiders because of Raiders in Fallout and how much they're like them.
There's all sorts of different ways of using Crimson, but only one of them includes Fleet, which has to do with Starfield.
That's true. So one of the things I thought was interesting was it actually shows this this character that's from Constellation that comes out that's asking you about the alien artifact that you effectively encounter when you're just starting out. And he's from Constellation and he's like, hey, this is cool. Let's go back to New Atlantis and we can go meet the other members of that. But then in the middle of him talking to you, you're interrupted by the Crimson Fleet. The Crimson Fleet comes out and they start like shooting up everything. So that leads me to believe, is that like a random occurrence? Like, oh no, now we got to go deal with this thing. Or is the Crimson Fleet trying to do something with that? Are they invested in what's going on with the alien artifacts?
Yeah. Or is that even a story beat? Like that happens every time exactly at that moment in that way. And that then introduces you to who they are, and then maybe you even get captured and you're given the option to join them or whatever, right? Like we don't know yet exactly where the story goes on. So that's cool. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing more about the Crimson Fleet. Of all of the factions, I think that's the one I'm most curious about. I think the rest of them are all going to have their own fun little secrets and bits of information and characters and lore and stuff to dig into. But I think the Crimson Fleet probably could have a lot of really cool stuff, especially because there's all these different captains. They're spread across the galaxy in all these different locations. It might be very easy to just see them as common enemies that you just shoot in order to get from one place to another or take all the stuff from one place. But actually getting in there, either covertly or signing up with them, is probably going to reveal a lot more about what's actually going on.
Right. And if you look up, even old Westerns from the early 1900s and that kind of stuff, a lot of the bandit characters were ex-United States Confederacy generals or, captains or whatever.
Or sheriffs in town, then became bandits and then went back to being sheriffs in a different town because they were pretending nothing ever happened. Yeah.
Right. So it's not like they're like, I've always been bad and I've been out to be bad since the day I was born. It's like, no, a lot of the initial people for these Crimson Raiders were veterans from a war that, I'm assuming that they feel wronged at some point and don't want to be a part of whatever became of the
are we gonna get brown coat stuff from Firefly?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, because that's kind of Mal's whole thing, right? Is that he came out on the wrong end of the previous set of wars, right, and is now basically an outlaw. So
that could be one of the options. Like if I'm looking into the future and seeing like what that could, like they have to ground that faction somehow. Like they have to make them so that they're not just like, we're the Sith. We want to exercise lightning on everyone.
Generic bad guys, right? With just,
exactly.
We're going to take over the universe. Yeah. Not just that. Yeah. So anything else we need to pay attention to, or we should know about the Crimson Fleet before we move on? Because we've got some other cool stuff in this episode.
I feel pretty docked, on this. I think that our ships come to port for the Crimson Fleet for now.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get to the Great Serpent. This is something that I haven't seen a whole lot of discussion about, and then a little bit of information about the Red Mile. But before that, just a reminder, we currently don't have a Patreon. There are no other ways to support the show other than by listening or leaving us reviews and rating the show on places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you decide to leave us a 5-star rating on a future episode, we'll read out your review on that episode. So thank you to those of you who take the time to support the show and help us get this thing going, because it's still, we've been doing this for a few years on and off, but the game hasn't come out yet. And so it still feels like it's in its infancy, and all of the positivity and sharing all absolutely is important to making sure your content succeeds on the internet. So we appreciate the help. All right, let's talk about the Great Serpent. We're getting into like, this is religious territory, which is interesting. I mean, they mentioned one of the characters is a theologian, and so religion is going to play into this. But this seems like a new faith that has kind of sprung up.
Yeah, there's not a lot of information on the Great Serpent faith. In the trailer, they say the Great Serpent hungers, all heathens shall be made dust in time, which, all heathens dust in time, technically we're all just a bunch of stardust collected.
Yeah, but it also sounds very confrontational. Like this does not feel like a religion of peace. This feels like a religion of our way or the highway or dust in space way.
Yes. They mentioned them as a faction that's kind of in that unsettled systems, uncharted systems that would exist out in that area. But there is something that we can kind of infer from this religion itself under the Serpent's Embrace trait that your player seems to be, you can choose as one of the things that you can have. That essentially gives you a boost when you grav jump your ship. Mm-hmm. So if that's like, oh, I believe in this religion and therefore I get a boost in grav jumping my ship, I wonder if that means that this is like a nomadic tribe. Like this is like
traveling
they're constantly
going
and traveling and jumping from place to place. Like it is not a place with a unique location. They're just like a faith of ships that just,
travel the universe, like
right.
Yeah, and there's that also is another sci-fi thing that comes up. So here's another perspective on that. What if it has something to do with gravity? I mean, we're using grav drives, so maybe the Serpent has something to do with gravity.
I mean, that could be one of those, the instead of being smote, I guess you could be decompressed or compressed by gravity.
All right. Well, so some other thoughts on this. The Great Serpent in our own world, in many ancient faiths, there is serpent imagery. This is all over the place. Serpents also had been described in many different ancient faiths to explain things like comets or meteors. Things in space or things appearing in the sky that have long tails. Those were described also as serpents. And there is some, assumptions, or at least maybe some hopes that some people have that all of that actually relates to potentially an impact that caused the ending of the last ice age like 13,000 years ago. And so maybe these are all echoes of humans telling stories about the warnings of seeing serpents in space causing... I said echo again, and now my Alexa's talking to me. Echo, turn off. So man, that's so annoying. But this idea that like that had something to do with a comet falling to Earth, which caused a bunch of destruction and death. And so the serpent is a warning. And even some faiths would worship the serpent in order to stave off catastrophe and death and all of those kinds of things. This may be echoes of that. And if this is echoes of that, there may be some sort of connection to the Earth getting hit by a comet or some sort of space object, which causes some of the imagery that we've seen where it looks like the Earth is in a really bad situation.
Right. Even if you go back and look at the initial trailer that they showed, there's I talked about it in like a previous episode, but I mean that could be from years ago now. I've talked about a sticker that shows a serpent that is like coiling around the Earth and comes up and it looks like spider. In Fallout 76, that is a its own faction and thing, but they've repurposed that artwork for that sticker in the game with some minor changes. So I'm curious if that is
also symbolic, of the Earth being attacked by a serpent, some sort of object in space that crashed and then caused like a nuclear winter, and also maybe caused more people to leave the planet Earth and settle other places, which may have connected into the wars that occurred while evacuating the planet and the claiming of land and space and all of the things. So maybe this all connects. And then because of that, some people worship the serpents and see that as a higher power, something that was causing this, that wanted people to leave the planet and go settle other places or something. However they're going to interpret that, I guess we'll have to find out.
I think that's a good theory. I think that connecting that up of like, what effect does this have on spacefaring humans, and like why is this a religion? I think are really good questions to ask.
Right. Well, if you have this is real world stuff. You have some sort of huge tragic event, and almost every time we do that, that affects people's faith. They change in some way. Their belief system changes. You can't go through some catastrophe without your belief system being affected. That's just natural human nature. So it makes sense that a new religion would form out of such a catastrophic event. So just my take on it. Anything else we know about the Great Serpent?
Not that much. They seem kind of like green.
Green's their color.
Green is their color.
Cool. All right.
Yes.
Some snakes are green. That makes sense. I wonder if it was like a green comet.
Could have been.
All right.
But really green tail.
Yeah, has a green tail. Maybe so. All right, so then there's the Red Mile. We've only got a little bit of information about the Red Mile. This is a location that we saw in the Direct. We've seen some footage of it in other places too. What do we know about the Red Mile?
I think people's interest is really piqued in that because it's like, hey, like here's like a slice. Like this feels like a slice. Like, oh, welcome to a settlement from like welcome to Republic of Dave. Like, what is the Republic of Dave? And it ends up being a fairly simple thing, not like too complex, because it's just a location. And I feel like the Red Mile is one of those places, like a space station that seems like that. And on the computers in there, they're all playing like blackjack on the computers. So it seems like that there's some gambling involved. But from all the purposes of like the station, the planet it's on, it seems like that the Red Mile might be some sort of like physical endurance task that people have to do.
They're doing some sort of race there, and the letters the font looks almost like Russian script, even though it's English words. So yeah, gambling. It's almost like going to the dog tracks or something like that, but maybe people are actually doing the race, and maybe the race isn't just running, it's some other thing. Maybe it's some like grav vehicles or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's like how long, can you, the gravity is so much that everybody just has to crawl because they can't lift themselves up into the air.
It's Goku on that weird little planet training and with all the weight on him.
Oh, excuse me. That's the hyperbolic time chamber that he can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought he went to a planet too, where when he died, he was on like a little planet.
Train,
wasn't he?
This is the Dragon Ball Z.
Dude, it has been 20 some years since I've thought about that episode of Dragon Ball, or that series of episodes. I guess it was a few. But maybe there's something related to gravity.
Maybe that's related to the Great Serpent. You got the Red Mile, because you got the Shenron and such. Maybe that's all.
Green and red.
Some balls you collect.
Christmas.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know about that. All right. Well, that's I guess all we know about the Red Mile so far. Man, there's something else that crossed my mind, but it's not coming to me. DMN Wizard in chat says, "What if Starfield's world is the Fallout world?" I'm absolutely sure that lots of people are going to put that out there, like Rob the Princess agrees. That's going to become a big fan theory. But I also know, having done shows about Bethesda games for a long time, that they're going to totally deny it. They're going to be like, no, it's its own thing. And I can predict right now that we will find Easter eggs and hints from both Fallout and Elder Scrolls in Starfield. And then people are going to be like the Nern route showing up on the ship, the Brotherhood ship, the Predwin. And people are going to be like, oh, it's clear evidence that these two worlds are connected. But then the developers are going to go, guys, it doesn't make sense. There's so many more ways that this doesn't make sense, that this is connected, than it does. These are just fun little Easter eggs. So
I like the idea. Here's an idea that I'll throw out for you. I think it's more likely that you're going to be able to figure out if it's in the Elder Scrolls universe or not, because if you go to like the edges of space, you'd be able to be like, oh yeah, that's the Atronach, like astrological sign. The astrological sign.
Oh, we're gonna be able to.
Those are the stars.
The stars.
And then you get, some captain that's out there, like in the edge of space. It's the Uriel Septon. It's like, I've seen my fate in the stars, and he's looking out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's the whole Coda thing in Elder Scrolls that like they actually go into the stars, and that does happen. But maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll find like an Elder Scrolls planet out in the galaxy somewhere.
It's just like it's like after it's already ended. It's like whatever race has conquered the other ones.
Right. It's all just Thalmor. It's all just Thalmor at the end. It's called Nern. You scan it, and it's like these beings have pointy ears and are extremely stuck up.
I like it.
Yeah.
Or like that's like an ancient thing, like, oh, in the ancient times we had these cats that would ride around on other cats, and they would use their claws to claw each other, and then they worshiped the moon. There's like like cave paintings of them. Yeah. I hope we find a planet that's like turtles on top of turtles on top of turtles all the way down. That's another fun reference. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here for the live chat. We do this usually around 3:30, 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoons Eastern time. So if you'd like to join us on the Robots Radio Twitch channel, then feel free to. We love all the conversation and the stuff that pops up while we do these. And Dave and I are extremely excited, and we're gonna dive into some other more speculative things on upcoming episodes. See what. Share some of the things that the community out there has dug up, and I hope you're excited for that as well. Yeah, speculations abound. We're not. I doubt we're getting very much more Starfield information, so we got to dig what we can and bring you just the gems of the gems. You know what I mean? Gems of the gems. All right. You got anything else you want to share before we wrap this up, Dave? I do my tabletop role-playing game Fallout podcast, Rad Rolls. It comes out every Friday. You get new episodes of that. We're on a current kick where a giant nuclear crawdad the size of Godzilla has an oil tanker put on his back, and the remnants of the Brotherhood of Steel have taken it over, and it's our crew's job to get rid of it, blow it up, or convince everybody to go home. Nice. Yeah, go check that out. You can also check out my shows. I do the Fallout Lorecast, the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, the Lord of the Rings Lorecast, and a bunch of other Lorecasts. All of that stuff at robotsradio.net. Thank you for being here, everybody, and we will see you next time. Until then, stay safe out there in that crazy galaxy, and look out for those Crimson Fleet friends of ours. Bye, everybody. Listening to the podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this show. Did you know that parodies are copyright protected? Tell a friend and review on iTunes or other services. Dave and Tom excited for Starfield. Let's all speculate and wear no shoes. Hey, why aren't we wearing any shoes? Because shoes rhymes with iTunes, and that's the best I could think of.